Okay,
Can you see my PowerPoint presentation?
we can.
Excellent. So thanks for inviting me. I love being part of VPAS events. It's always good conversation and a good audience. I am an architect. My background and how I got involved with VPAS is that the National Home Builders Association created a designation called Certified Aging in Place Specialist. So I'm a CAPS certified architect. And the reason that was appealing to me is my mom had very bad arthritis, and she and dad were living in Roanoke, and I was trying to figure out ways to be helpful. And I wanted to find design solutions, and I wanted to be an expert at it. So I started Aging in Place Roundtable here in Harrisonburg and helped start the one in Augusta County to bring resources together. And I became a certified aging in place specialist so I could design buildings and houses that are for all abilities as best as we can make them. So that's how I got into the process. Mom passed away 4 years ago, and soon after, dad had a heart attack, and he had a heart attack that night. And just so you can know the mindset that I work with, he went to Hardee's the next morning to get a sausage biscuit on his way to the hospital. And when he did get to the hospital, they said, yes, you're having a heart attack. And he was in Roanoke. So I went down that day to be with him, and he's not a very good patient. I wouldn't want to be his nurse or his doctor. So I only stayed down there that day. It was clear he was going to be in the hospital for several days. And he called me the next day and said some of his buddies came by and the doctors released him. So he was back home. And I said, well, that's awesome. Did they give you some medication? Did they give you some care tips? What's going on? Nope, they just said I could go. I said, oh, okay. And I don't know. So I said, that sounds great, wonderful. So on Christmas Eve, so about, 2-3 weeks later, I got a call when I was in the service, the Christmas Eve service, and he said, something's wrong. I need you to come. So I left the church and I went to Roanoke, and I got him to the hospital, and he was in congestive heart failure. So he had gained about 100 pounds of liquid. Didn't think that was a major issue until it became a major issue. So that time I stayed with him in the hospital, and when the nurse or doctor would come in the room, I said, talk to me, don't talk to him. So we got him to actually stay in the hospital the time that he needed to be in the hospital. We got him the care that he needed. He's still in congestive heart failure. He's been in congestive heart failure for a while. He's on blood thinners. He's doing all the stuff that you have to do now when you get to that point in your life. But he was in Roanoke and I was here, and I'm a single dad of 2 teenage daughters. So life was difficult. So about a year and a half ago, I bought a house with an apartment in it, and now dad lives with me and my daughters, and I'm a caregiver for 3. Sometimes they take care of me, but most of the time I'm the caregiver. So that's where I'm at and how I got involved in this topic. And my expertise is on how to make buildings adaptable and accessible, not so much the medical piece or the caregiving piece. So Joyce asked me to talk about some of the things how we can make buildings easier for caregivers to be able to use them. So that's what this presentation is about.
Charles, thank you for that. Is there any way you can do like a slideshow or a read only so we can see a little bigger? There, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Mm-hmm. So in my world, there's 2 different kinds of accessibility in buildings. There's ADA and there's universal design. ADA is a federally mandated standard that all public buildings have to meet. And it's really geared towards a young person in a skiing accident that gets put into a wheelchair to make the buildings adaptable for them. So good upper body strength and wheelchair accessibility. Universal design looks at, there's a wide spectrum of abilities within the human world. So how can we make buildings as adaptable and as usable for as many people as possible? So it doesn't just look at wheelchair clearances or roll under counters. It looks at all kinds of abilities and how we can make buildings, houses, schools, everything as accessible as possible for as many people as possible. So as we think about how to make it easier for caregivers. Having some services at home becomes a nice topic. If you don't have to leave the house in order to get the whatever service you might need, like a pool at your house. Obviously, there's an income constraint with having an indoor pool at your house. This is one that we did over in Charlottesville a few years ago. It's one of those swim in place lap pools. It was for a 90-year-old woman that didn't want to have to go to therapy anymore. So we built a nurse wing to the house and built all the treatment into the house. So, I mean, that's just for upper income. That's one way that you can look at things, but there's many other things that we should be considering in houses and businesses, such as how can you get into the house without taking a step up? So this is a detached garage that has no step entry from the garage into the house. So it's wheelchair accessible, but it's also good for people that have bad knees that can't take that step into the house without becoming wobbly. I'm quickly getting there in my life. My knees often hurt as I go out on my 5-mile walks every morning. We can also design in things like lifts. This is more of a commercial grade lift, but we can have lifts above ceilings, lifts above beds. When Mom had her back surgery, getting her up out of a medical bed was incredibly hard for me. Dad's older than me, so I don't know how they did it when I wasn't there. So having a lift system like this built into the ceiling would have been very useful. Again, this is a higher end kind of solution, whereas the chair on the right, more accessible for more people with the lift and the chair to help the person get up and out. Space is always a big concern when we're designing for multiple abilities. So large turning areas, whether it's in a restroom or a kitchen or a living room, not having multiple steps between rooms, not having rugs that are slippery on floors, not having things that you might trip over, having good lighting, all those things are very important to make the house or business as safe as possible. Something that people might not think about when we're thinking about caregivers and aging in place is the chemical off-gassing of all the things that we have in our houses. So many of you have probably now heard about no VOC paint. So that new car smell, that new paint smell, those are chemicals that you're smelling and they're known carcinogens. So VOCs are volatile organic compounds. They're in a lot of the things that we put inside of buildings. They're in diapers, they're in furniture, they're in wood, they're in glues, they're in paints. So residential construction doesn't require that you bring fresh air into a house. Commercial construction does. So now that we're in a pandemic, more and more people are thinking about the indoor air quality inside of a house. So you're going to start hearing more things about how you can create a heating and cooling system in a house that actually kills viruses and filters air. So this is the system I have on my house that I actually put in before the pandemic. I have a UV light on the vent coils in my HVAC system. So that kills viruses. We don't know if it kills COVID, but it kills viruses. And then I have a large pleated, I actually have a charcoal filter that filters the air in my house. So I'm actually cleaning the air. So the air inside my house is cleaner than the air outside of the house. In most houses, the air inside of the house is more polluted than the air outside, even if you measure the air downtown on a busy street. The air in your house in suburbia often has more chemicals and nasty stuff in it than being out on the street in a downtown of a city. As we adapt the house, we don't particularly want to make it look like it's a very commercial grade kind of space. So think that long silver grab bar that you see in many public restrooms. These are all grab bars that are more stylish so that they blend and offer some aesthetic beauty in the spaces. And they make these so that you can put them anywhere in a wall. If you're doing new construction, we often will put plywood behind the drywall of any space that might need a grab bar in the future. So then you can install a less expensive grab bar wherever you want, but they do make grab bars that you can install in any wall surface, regardless of what's behind it, without having to put in blocking. A ramp to the front sidewalk of a house is an indicator to the person on the street that there's somebody that's susceptible inside. So having a ramp built into your porch that you can't see from the street is a protection so that you're not advertising there's frailty in the house. Putting in appropriate lighting under cabinets or on light switches like this image, just getting well lit spaces so that you can see what you're doing. The older I get, the more I know how important that is. And then that device on the lower right lower left is a water cutoff. So if that sensor detects that there's a leak somewhere in the house, it automatically shuts off the flow to the whole house. So these are great if you have teenage daughters and you put it on your hot water supply, because they tend to take really long showers, and you can just cut off the supply anytime you want. But it's also good if you're monitoring somebody else's house, you can get a notification and it will shut off automatically so that you know there's a leak before there's a major problem. Pull down shelves and cabinets, or microwaves that are under cabinet, or levers instead of round doorknobs for arthritis kind of approaches. All of these are good accessibility things. Roll under countertops with cooktops above, putting dowels on the front of your cooktop instead of on the back so you don't have to reach across hot things. Raising up washers and dryers so that you can reach into them and you don't have to bend or get on top of them. In a pandemic, touchless faucets are going to become very popular, so that you can turn on and off the water by the back of your hand instead of having to touch a faucet or a knob. So that's all sensory. Sensory stuff doesn't work well if you have arthritis. It requires the warmth of the fingertips. Mom could never get her touch phone to work or her touch screen iPad to work because her arthritis was so bad. She didn't have good blood flow to the fingertips. Pull down clothes hangers in your closet so that if you're in a wheelchair, you can pull it down to your level. Raising up a dishwasher so that you don't have to bend to get down to it, or roll under cabinetry, under countertops in, whether it's in a kitchen or a bathroom, which creates a roll under cooktop area so you don't lose all that storage space. And of course, lifts of different types, whether they're elevators or pneumatic or chair lifts or these lifts that go along the stair. All good options to make two-story houses more accessible. When I moved to Harrisonburg about 13 years ago, I was stunned at how many split level houses exist in this city. There's not a really good solution for a split level to make it more accessible for wheelchair, because you've got stairs going in both directions. And there's a lot of split level houses in Harrisonburg. Another thing that many people probably don't think about when you're thinking about accessibility and aging in place, but having a home that is comfortable and energy efficient. So Dad likes his house hot. I do not. So we're constantly battling between the two of us of what is a comfortable temperature in the house. So making sure that you have the insulation where it goes, regardless of how much you push that thermostat up, is very important. So when I bought my house a year ago, we insulated the attic and we insulated the basement to get it more energy efficient so that my electric bills aren't quite as high with the higher temperatures that he likes to keep the heating and cooling system. I do free energy audits for anybody that needs them, just so you know. Some people aging in place might have concerns about safety. So safe rooms can be built into closets. They can be built underneath houses. They can be in the back of basements. We do quite a lot of these anymore, just to give a place, not here, not necessarily weather related. In the Midwest, it'd be weather related, but just so if you're worried about somebody knocking on your door at night, if you're living alone, you might want a room that you can go into that can be locked and be secured. And then I get some pushback on this one at times. So thinking about how we can manage a space. So Dad needs to remember to take his medicine every night, and I'm busy. I can't remember every night to say, hey, did you take your medicine? He sets it up in one of those daily things so you can see if he missed a day. But I set Alexa down in his space and I said, Alexa, give me a daily reminder at 8 o'clock, take your medicine. So every day Alexa does my job and says, take your medicine. And he's always sitting in that space at 8 o'clock. So he gets a reminder. So thinking about ways that you can put technology into the house that are user friendly, that won't necessarily, he has no idea how to use Alexa, even though I've told him all you have to do is say Alexa and tell it what to do and it'll do it. That's not his shtick. He doesn't like that, but you can set it up. So if your person you're caring for wears a smartwatch or a watch, it can monitor heart rate. It can give you notifications if there's some differences. It can have tracking in it. You can control, if you're not living in the same house, you can have cameras in strategic places so that you can see if somebody's not answering the phone, maybe they've fallen and they need some assistance. You can look at energy usage. You can look at where the lights are on or where the lights are off. You can control that, turn them on and off. You can help with the TV remotely. If you've ever had somebody you're caring for that says, hey, my remote's not working anymore, rather than driving 2 hours to Roanoke to fix it, You can get on through some technology means, and you can change channels for them and diagnose problems. So there's a lot of good tools out there that are user-friendly now to make a home automated. Life 360 is a really good one for me. So one of the things I didn't tell you about Dad is he still rides his Harley. He's in congestive heart failure, but he will take off on that Harley and come back 8 hours later. And he doesn't really tell me where he's going because he's Dad. So I put Life 360 on his phone so I can see where he's at. Now, if he goes into West Virginia, I know where he went into West Virginia because there's not good cell service out there. So it doesn't tell me exactly where he's at. But I know if he doesn't come back eventually, I can probably track him down what direction he was going at least. So Life 360 is a good phone app to put on anybody that you might want to know where they're at. Both my kids have it, and they have it for me. So hope that was quick enough and brief enough to give you some ideas of things that you can do to adapt. If you want to get a hold of me, here's all the places and things that I am on so that you can get more information about me or reach out to me.
Charles, would you say just a little bit more about the home energy audits that you offer?
Sure. So with the home energy audit, right now I'm doing them virtually, so they're not quite as in depth, but I'll get my second vaccine on April 7th. So May, I'll be able to do them in person again. We use a thermal imaging gun when I do them in person, and I can see through your walls. So this picture on the bottom left, white is hot and black is cold. This is the inside of the space above in the picture. You can see that the windows are letting a lot of temperature in from outside. It's very cold on the windows. It's 47 degrees inside on the windows and 69 degrees where there's insulation. So we can look and see where there's air infiltration, and we can look and see where there's insulation missing. So in most homes, when I go in and look, the attic isn't going to have adequate insulation, and then the crawl space or basement is not going to have adequate insulation. So I can say, here's the places that you want to better insulate or air seal to make the home more comfortable, to keep your utility bills as low as possible. And then I tell you who does the work. So I do these when I have time for free, just because I think everybody should cut their energy use. And you can make your home more comfortable and save some money by doing it. And I'll give you names of people that do the install. They don't pay me for that. I trust certain people to do it right and give you a fair price. So I've been doing that now for about 3 years.
Charles, this is Dr. Calderoni. A nice presentation. I especially like the amalgamation of technology into some of the caregiver roles. One thing you didn't touch upon was elopement precautions, which is a big issue in patients, especially with moderate to severe dementias. And short of having somebody under lock and key and feeling like they're in a jail, what, if anything, do you have available or suggest?
I think the Life 360, the tracking app, as long as they're carrying a phone with them, you can see where they're at.
Right.
There's wearable technology that can monitor lots of things now. Right. My Fitbit gives me approximately what my heart rate is and tell me how many steps I take.
Right.
One step up from that, you can get a lot of data, blood pressure, oxygen levels. Right. It's pretty amazing what wearable technologies are out there now.
I was thinking more of the lock and key that doesn't look like a lock and key.
Oh, got it. So, so to be able to lock the house remotely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or keep them from wandering off at night.
Yeah, or alert you if they do. So yeah. I use a Augusta lock system on my house, so I can lock and unlock my front door and get notifications when it's locked and unlocked. Okay. And I have a Ring doorbell on my front door that alerts me if anybody moves at the door. So I get a text message to say there's movement. So I have that on Dad's door downstairs. Not because I'm worried about him wandering off, but I want to know when he's going to go ride his Harley. So anytime he walks back past that Ring doorbell, I get a notification. And then I also have the lock sensor. So if somebody's unlocking the door, I also have 2 teenage daughters. If anybody's unlocking the door, I know that they're moving. So there's an incredible amount of low cost home automation that you can put into a house, from locking doors to turning on your oven to running water in your bathrooms to seeing what's going on around the house. So it's just that's an hour-long presentation of all the options that are available. And I have a lot of them on my house if you ever want to see them. I do enjoy the home automation technology now that it's come down in price.